Jemele Hill has called Caitlin Clark a racist after new footage surfaced of the Ryan Howard.
James Hill recently intervened significantly when she accused Caitlin Clark of racism during that heated argument with Ryan Howard, but recently released video totally refutes her claims. If you believe that Jemele Hill totally disgraced herself with this racist claim, the backlash is amazing to see as the internet is thoroughly mocking her for this opinion, and she is frantically trying to salvage face.
Jemele Hill got busted, Steve. She got exposed once again. It looks like in September, Jemele sent a lengthy tweet saying Caitlin Clark doesn't get the same hate.
We must discuss what happened because Jemele Hill has officially gone too far with this one. She took a basketball game between Caitlin Clark and Ryan Howard and somehow turned it into a racist narrative that is blowing up in her face more quickly than a cheap fireworks display.
This is season 2 of Caitlin Clark and the Fever, and now we have a new Jemele Hill rant. She is one person that's been pretty vocal about everything. The Angel Reese situation, now this Ryan Howard thing, which I thought was not a big deal whatsoever. Reported on it yesterday. She did kind of get into Caitlin Clark's head, kind of psyched her out. I believe that's why Caitlin Clark played so bad. But some new footage has emerged of the incident.
Since context is important, let me set the scene for you. We're discussing a WNBA regular season game where two competitors got into a heated argument. Ryan Howard was playing physical defense against Caitlin Clark, yelling obscenities at her while attempting to get inside her head. This is standard basketball fare that occurs in every game at every level.
Got Caitlin Clark taking it back, and you can see the hold there. Then Ryan Howard doesn't like that. And there's some words between.
Now in her second season as a professional, Clark has mastered these circumstances. Before we get into Hill's embarrassing interpretation, let's acknowledge what actually happened here. Competitive basketball at its best. Howard was trying to intimidate Clark, but Clark wasn't having it. She stood her ground, made it clear she wasn't going to be bullied, and continued playing basketball. "I'm not scared of you," Clark said simply and directly when Howard got in her face. This is exactly what you want to see from a professional athlete.
Jill, you're in Atlanta, all in her face, bro. Like, Atlanta's supposed to be the place where they just target Caitlin Clark. She was doing nothing, bro. She was dribbling. She's pressing her, hacking her the whole way. They hacked Caitlin the whole damn game, bro. So Jemele Hill has a knack for.
However, Jay Hill's perverted reasoning led her to quickly accuse this discussion of racism. If ignorance were a sport, Caitlin Clark's confident response to hate speech somehow renders her racist. The new video that surfaced totally disproves the mental acrobatics needed to get at that conclusion, which would win Olympic gold. Hill's account, which is in crystal clear 4K quality, shows exactly what happened. Howard was the one who physically attacked Clark and used derogatory language in an attempt to intimidate him. Clark just responded confidently and carried on playing basketball. There is absolutely nothing in that video that could be interpreted as racist unless you're deliberately seeking out controversy where none exists.
They stated Jemele Hill called racism against Caitlin Clark. Competitors claims hatred is all made up. How is hatred all made up when you got fans yelling, "You're in Atlanta," all in her face, bro? Like, Atlanta's supposed to be the place where they just target Caitlin Clark. She was doing nothing, bro. She was dribbling. She's pressing her, hacking her the whole way. They hacked.
What makes Hill's take even more absurd is this. She is disregarding the pattern of targeted behavior that Caitlin Clark has experienced since joining the league. This is not an isolated event. Clark has frequently had to deal with players that try to physically threaten, rough her up, and get inside her head. Howard's actions were only the most recent illustration of this concerning pattern.
Caitlin Clark, by the way, absolutely silenced everybody yesterday. The woke media was all on her. I hate to even mention this complete jackass, Jemele Hill, and others were all in her business. It's white privilege. She hits these threes, man. I don't give a damn if it's white, black, or green privilege. Jemele Hill, she blames the media for covering Caitlin Clark. She's tremendous on television. What a missed opportunity for the national media to really evaluate who she was as a person. Why? Whereas it feels like our black athletes get the same amount of coverage.
In what universe, according to Jemele Hill's perverted worldview, does standing up for yourself in the face of bullying behavior make you the bad guy? The irony of Hill's position is astounding. She is attacking the player who merely refused to be intimidated while defending a player who was obviously the instigator. Hill's attempt to portray this as merely typical competition is even more pitiful.
Here's what LeBron James just said. Go ahead and play this clip. This is him with Redick.
The one thing
that I love that she's bringing to her sport.
Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
More people want to watch.
There you go.
More people want to tune in. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it fucked up. Caitlin Clark is the reason why a lot of great things is going to happen for the WNBA.
Good for you, LeBron.
But for her individually, I don't think she should get involved on nothing that's being said. Just go have fun, enjoy.
She said on Twitter that people should stop behaving as though Clark is the object of special attention and that it's just basketball, but anyone with eyes can see that's not the case here. The degree of physical play and intimidation techniques aimed at Clark surpasses the bounds of typical competition. Basketball fans of all stripes, including those who may not be major aficionados, are criticizing Hill's ludicrous interpretation of events due to the rapid, harsh, and justifiable pushback against her perspective. Supporters of Caitlin Clark are aware that Hill's racism claim is wholly baseless and openly offensive to real racism victims. Hill's reaction to the criticism has been even more embarrassing. Rather than owning up to her error or admitting that her perspective was incorrect, she has strengthened her stance and is disparaging those who disagree with her, accusing them of not knowing basketball or the larger picture. The situation's most striking feature is how it exposes Hill's own prejudices. She is prepared to overlook clear facts in order to uphold a certain narrative about the WNBA and racial relations since she is so committed in it. Because it doesn't suit her preconceived plot, Hill views Clark confronting a bully as racism
by these WNBA players is rhetorical. They making it their business, one player on a team, every game she played, to attack her, bro. Who knows who it's going to be tomorrow for the New York Liberty? But I bet you any amount of money, somebody's going to make it their day to make sure Caitlin Clark
Let's discuss the real racism in this case, and some people, like Hill, believe that any conflict between a white player and a black player must be motivated by race. This is an example of actual racism since it makes assumptions about people's motivations based only on their race rather than their behavior. This pattern from Hill is not new either. She has built her entire media career on finding racism in situations where it doesn't exist. She is the one who sees racial motivations behind every interaction between people of different races, even when the evidence clearly points to other explanations. The footage shows Clark being professional and composed, while Howard was the one who escalated the situation, but Hill's racist lens keeps her from seeing the obvious reality, determining that Clark must be the villain because of her race regardless of what actually happened on the court. Hill's reputation has suffered greatly as a result of this episode. When you criticize racism for something as harmless as a player confronting a bully, you lessen the impact of exposing real racism. Because they are aware that you will label anything as racist if it supports your story, people begin to ignore you. Hill's boy who cried wolf attitude to racism accusations makes it more difficult to have those important conversations, which is even more disappointing given that there are actual racial issues in athletics that demand attention and discussion. The timing of Hill's accusation is especially tone-deaf given everything that has been going on in the WNBA lately. There have been actual incidents of questionable behavior, examples of players crossing lines, but she chooses to focus on this completely innocent exchange as her hill to die on. Clark's handling of the situation has been excellent throughout this entire controversy. She didn't respond to Hill's accusation, didn't get into a social media war, and didn't make any inflammatory statements. Her credibility is shot even though she may have a valid point, even when she may have a valid one. She simply kept playing basketball and let her on-court performance speak for itself. This is what true pros do in the interim. In her increasingly desperate attempts to defend her initial poor decision, Hill is making herself appear silly on social media by blaming those who call attention to the glaring errors in her logic and claiming they are unaware of the subtleties of the circumstance, the astounding lack of self-awareness. The most harmful aspect of Hill's accusation is how it impacts the larger discussion about race in sports. When someone with her position makes such blatantly untrue statements about racism, it provides justification for those who wish to minimize valid worries about racial issues. The WNBA fans' response has been especially harsh because they actually watch the games and understand the context. They can see the pattern of targeted behavior toward Clark. They can see who the real aggressors are. They can tell when someone is making false accusations for attention. And even those who might normally agree with her positions can see that she's completely off base here. She's actually harming the cause she claims to support. Hill's defenders are few and far between on this one, and for good reason. The most pitiful thing about Hill's stance is that by criticizing the victim of bullying and thereby endorsing bullying behavior, she is implying that players should tolerate being singled out and intimidated rather than protecting themselves. That is a bad message for athletes in general and young women in particular. The most satisfying aspect of this entire controversy is watching Hill realize that her accusation has completely backfired the ratio on her social media posts. The overwhelming criticism from fans and media members, the complete lack of support for her position, all evidence that she greatly miscalculated with this one going forward. The long-term damage to Hill's reputation from this incident will be significant because sports fans have long memories and they don't forget when media personalities make obviously false accusations against their favorite players. Hill's credibility on WNBA problems is practically ruined whenever she attempts to comment on league matters. Her terrible judgment and desperate craving for attention have permanently damaged her voice, and people will never forget this episode where she called a player racist for confronting a bully. The larger lesson here is about the peril of crying wolf when it comes to serious accusations like racism. When media figures like Hill make blatantly untrue statements, it undermines the legitimacy of valid worries about racial issues in sports. In effect, she is shielding real racists by softening the significance of the charge. What's more troubling about Hill's strategy is how she is attacking someone who has done nothing wrong by using race as a weapon. Despite Clark's unwavering professionalism throughout her career, Hill feels free to disparage her persona based on a wildly misconstrued basketball exchange. The most disheartening part of this whole situation is how it diverts attention from real issues that deserve attention, while Hill is creating controversies out of nothing. There are real problems in sports that could use her platform and influence, but instead she's wasting everyone's time with nonsensical takes. The fact that Hill has doubled down on her position despite overwhelming evidence that she is wrong shows just how invested she is in maintaining her narrative regardless of facts. This isn't about seeking truth or justice, even when reality doesn't support it. Jemele, this is what happens when you cry racism over nothing. Hit the like button and subscribe for more media meltdowns. Hill's racist accusation against Caitlin Clark has completely backfired. The video shows Clark merely confronting a bully, but Hill turned it into something it wasn't, damaging her credibility.